everyone, welcome to Air Discussions. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Steve Baxi.
Steve is filling in for Eric this week. Steve, thanks for being here.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks
Good
for
to
having
see you. Unfortunately, Eric couldn't make it. Eric plans on being here and on camera, too. I sent Eric a webcam just so he could be on camera, and you're going to get to see what he looks like if you've never seen that, so that's exciting. But anyway, Eric wanted me to say sorry he couldn't be here, and he was a little saddened that he wasn't able to make it for the first episode of the season. I'm really looking forward to getting his thoughts on this episode, and he and I will talk about this a little bit next time, assuming he's able to be here for the second episode, hopefully so. Anyway, meanwhile, we've got Steve. Steve has been watching the show since the beginning also. He's been keeping up, so he knows his stuff, and we are going to jump right into the first episode of the season. Thank you very much for joining us. The first episode of the season is called The Calm. I really expected next episode to immediately be called The Storm. It's not.
It has a habit of doing that, where you have like half of a saying and then the next half of a saying.
Yeah.
Not complete sentences.
The Calm, The Storm. But I would be very surprised if that were not an episode title for like mid-season or the end of the season.
I bet you it's the finale.
I bet it is too, and they like bookend it that way. So anyway, so first episode of the season, we are going to go ahead and go straight into general overview as we have been for the first episodes of our seasons on the discussion shows this year. Feel free to leave your comments as we go, and we will talk about some of your comments and questions next episode. Steve, let's go ahead and jump straight into it. I really liked this I really liked this episode overall. Especially with the way it was dealing with the classic themes of a superhero trying to juggle his personal life and his heroic life, and the way that was played both literally and figuratively. What I immediately resisted, and I'll just get this right out of the way right now, was what everybody thought I would resist. People immediately, when this episode was over, sent me messages and said, "Captain Logan, you're going to hate this episode." You are not, and as always, of course, I'm sure everybody knows this, but spoiler alert, this discussion show, we're going to talk about everything. Several people sent me messages and were like, "Yep, Captain Logan, you're going to eat your hat. You're going to want to kill yourself after seeing this episode." I was doing my live tweet session for the show, and I wrote something about the Flash moment, and then somebody responded and said, "Oh, he's almost there." And then I got there, and I said, no, and he went, "Yep, there it is." Yeah, it hurt my feelings. It was rough. Sarah's my favorite. She's my favorite character, and
She's a really good character.
Yeah, I didn't know if you agreed with me, but I love Sarah Lance. She's my favorite character in the show. I've been predicting her death since she showed up in the first place, because she is expendable. She's a brand new character. She's made up for the show. They can do anything. Right? I don't think Diana had a sister named Sarah in the comics. And
not that I know of.
And even if she did, this is one of the more expendable potential characters in the show, because we know that she is the first Black Canary, so they can make that character a legacy thing, and then get Laurel in the suit later, and it's looking very much like they're going to build on this, and Laurel's probably in the suit this season. And so, I immediately, my, of course, reaction was, no, and then I thought about it, and they will not keep her dead.
It's the third time she's died in this series.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
So...
They're not going to keep her dead. And they did that to make... Because there's two things. First of all, I don't think this show would have wasted that opportunity to not kill her off at the end of last season.
Yeah, because to some extent, it feels like it's trying to neatly wrap up everything with her, and it feels a little bit like, well, you're not doing a service to that character, killing her like that.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, how important she is to Nyssa, and why she came back so suddenly, and the person that killed her, it's really possible, especially with Ra's al Ghul showing up, that she might get like a Lazarus Pit kind of thing and she'll come back.
I think this is the way that they, and of course, next episode is called Sarah. And so I would assume we're probably going to get some flashback stuff with her, and I mean, that probably all the flashback stuff in that episode will be Sarah stuff. I would imagine that's how they're going to really build League of Assassins. That's just my guess, and I don't look at teasers for next week or whatever. It's just I was looking at an episode list today to figure out what this episode was called, and I saw that, and so I just, now that I know it, I can't unknow it, and so I mention it. That her presence will still be felt in some way or another. I think this is the way they introduce us to the idea of Lazarus Pits, and I still say that the Lazarus Pit is going to have everything to do with Mirakuru.
Yeah, I'm starting to think the same way, and I feel like maybe Sarah's death is going to be the main focus of the whole season, because Ra's al Ghul is supposed to be the big bad. Even if Sarah's not dead, I feel like she's going to be the propelling force throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
The same way both Slade and Oliver's friendship was the same way last season, or maybe Tommy was with the first season.
Yeah.
Because she's a really important character. She's going to affect everything Laurel does. She's going to affect everything that Thea does with Malcolm Earl, and everything Oliver does. So it's going to be really hard to keep this story up without using that actress to some capacity.
And thematically and story-wise, it was kind of a neat, almost easy place to kill her with what Oliver's going through in this episode. The kind of catch-22 of how do you have a personal life and have the kind of dangerous life that he has, and then if you know, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you choose the personal life, then you're shirking a responsibility potentially, but if you choose the arrow life, you will probably get an arrow yourself, and that's played out with her at the end. And
all that's from last season too, when Nyssa first shows up and her family's in danger. That's precisely what she's afraid of, and Oliver seems to finally be getting to that point that she had before.
I gotta tell you, I think just for the sake of the episode, and as I said, I don't think she's dead for good, but for the sake of the episode, she was pretty thrown in there just so that could happen to her, right? Like why couldn't she have been there from the beginning somehow? Why couldn't we have had a maybe a better way to get her in here so that she didn't feel so shoehorned? I'm saying this without seeing where they're going with it, and I'm sure I will take this back later. But my first inclination was to say, why didn't you just not have her go back to the League of Assassins and keep her with the team for 5 months and let her and Oliver start to maybe be putting a life together and then she dies, as opposed to... although that would certainly be different than what they're doing. You know what I mean? With him trying to date somebody who did not just die. That's a little too clean. That's a little Daredevil Elektra. But you see what I'm saying? Like the first thing I'm thinking is, why couldn't we have just kept her around so we didn't have to come up with some way to shoehorn her back in for a second? And then then I'm thinking, well, those 5 months might be really important. When we find out what exactly she has been up to.
It feels like she's going to die anyway. Like, the way she just shows up out of nowhere, and the way she's written, and she's saying things that doesn't feel like she would naturally say in a conversation.
Not even a little bit. She and Oliver both have that problem right now between Oliver going over to Flash. That is so awkward. I gotta be honest with you. I liked it in Flash a lot more until I saw this episode, and I don't feel like the advice that he gives that he gives Barry is the advice that this guy who just went through what he went through would give him. I'm wondering about it. I mean, once again, and I don't mean to keep harping on this, the Destiny line thing was completely out of left field, I thought. But beyond that, now that I see, they think they're being clever by having both episodes kind of crossed there, and that's cool, and I like that they did that. The problem, though, is that they clearly, maybe not. It seems like they probably wrote Flash before they wrote this, because what happens here is Oliver learns. Is realizing just how incredibly complicated trying to be a superhero is, and he's got all this past coming back to haunt him stuff. Even if he were to straight up decide, I don't want to be Arrow anymore, I'm gonna embrace Oliver Queen. Could he do that forever? Given that the Arrow stuff keeps coming back, it's like the damage is done. It's a Batman Begins thing. You have a Dark Knight thing. You've changed things, right? So. Well, shouldn't the advice he gives Barry to be like the whole thing about, you have heart and you can be a hero I couldn't be right at the beginning is good. That's valid. That all makes sense. But shouldn't he also give him a word of warning about how incredibly complicated his life is about to be? I don't know. That's so I thought that was weird. But the reason I mentioned all of that was because you mentioned Sarah saying stuff that seems out of character for her in exactly the same way, and we can talk about that for a second if you want to, but in exactly the same way that what Oliver said there seemed kind of not to match everything. Why does Sarah say we aren't our masks? That seems completely out of character to me.
No, it echoes something she already told Oliver. There's no reason for her to say that in that moment, and she doesn't even know what's going on in Oliver's life at the moment.
Yeah.
So why would that advice come from?
But also, isn't this a person who... I guess the problem is, again, I don't know what happened in those 5 months. Maybe that will make more sense as I see it, because now that I'm thinking about it, okay, I'm going to backtrack for a minute, because now that I'm thinking about it, she does come out and say, maybe I'm going to stick around, I haven't decided yet. So she's already decided not to necessarily stay with the League of Assassins, but the first thing I thought was, well, you decided to go live permanently with this group and devote your life to vigilantism, but she is there for Nyssa more than for the vigilantism, so she already thinks that she can... Okay, so never mind. That I guess that works. But okay, so it's not out of character, but I don't know how she knows what Oliver's been dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think what she says is out of character. It's just the fact that she's had this conversation with Oliver before. That was her entire character arc during the mid-season finale last time. And then she just says that out of the blue. And we have a little bit of the same problem in this episode that we did in previous seasons, where it's really telegraphing what's happening in the island is echoing what's happening right now, and it's a little too convenient. Like, the guy on the island has that line about about people that go by two names.
Yeah.
And the way he interprets that advice, it feels like a stretch compared to the way we have to interpret that advice to what's going on in the present.
Yeah, I wish that they could have come up with some kind of saying that was less on the nose than that. Because I like it when those things parallel. I enjoy that, but you got to do it in such a way where it doesn't seem forced, like you wrote the past to match the present. Because you do often deal with things in the present that can mirror and parallel in really interesting ways things that happened in the past. That was my favorite thing about Lost. A lot of the time I thought that worked there, and sometimes it works here. But you're right. That was a place where I really wondered about it. And if that line had come up somewhere in the present somehow, I would have liked it more, because it's an okay line. It's an okay, like, kind of proverb or whatever.
Yeah, and we see Katana in this episode, and it's getting to this point where the moment Katana shows up in the present, because I have a feeling she will, then Oliver just has to go, okay, during year this of the island, this is going to happen in my life right now. It's getting really, really obvious.
Yeah, I wish they could come up with a way to give us the third season stuff and just have it be more subtle thematically in and not even just thematically, just in informing Oliver's character. I think it works better when it's Oliver is making this kind of choice now because look at who he used to be and where he's come. That's when it works better. I hope it doesn't. And it looks like it's probably going to. So this is a moot point. But it looks like what we're getting is a formula now where whatever was going on in the island flashbacks is going to encroach upon the present. I said very early on in first season that was going to happen with Slade. That was all last season. I don't want the Chinese stuff to start encroaching on the present unless it somehow really makes sense. Now, I will say it is good that we got Waller before we ever knew how she and Oliver were connected. I mean, I'll give him that.
Yeah. The Waller thing, the verdict's still out on what she wants Oliver for, but it's really strange that she wants Oliver on the island anyway, because the guy's got no money to his name, she's got better fighters than him, he doesn't have Mirakuru anymore, like, what's the purpose?
It's a good point. You have to... What could he possibly know that she needs? I mean, it seems like the only thing that makes sense right now would be if it was like a singular piece of information or something, but then why not just interrogate him?
Yeah, because he's been on the island with her for 5 months, or not the island, but in Hong Kong for 5 months. What could she possibly need him for?
Is it 5 months?
I think so, because they're doing this thing of, like, every time you flash back to the islands, it's the exact same moment 5 years back and forth.
Is that what it's supposed to be, the exact same moment?
I not the exact same moment, but like 5 years in between every event.
I was going to say,
like
it couldn't be the exact same moment
because the fight between Slade and the President, the fight in the past is 5 years apart. This episode and the flashback are 5 years apart.
If it is to the month, that's even more kind of too easy and convenient, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how the TV canon works, but as far as the comics go, they do that all the time.
Oh, okay.
Because they flash back in the comics, too, and I guess that's what they're doing here, too.
I think it's very interesting that we are 5 months from last time and not right in, like, the month that it is.
Yeah.
Right? Or well, I mean, let me think here. Maybe it has been 5 months. Did that show end in May or June? No, I guess it has been 5 months. I always think about it like 3 months. You know what I mean? Like you wait 3 months for the break. But I guess maybe no, never mind. Actually, that is how that's working. Whatever. Anyway, other things about this episode. Let's see. I guess we talked pretty thoroughly at length about the Sarah thing. I guess the only other thing I'll cap off with the Sarah thing is even if she's not dead for good, she's never going to be the same, right? And she's probably not going to be like a major recurring regular character again. I would be very surprised if she didn't become a villain or something. I kind of think that if she does come back, if they do the whole Lazarus bit, she's probably going to come back bad. I mean, I'm saying that with what I know about Lazarus, but they like to do comic book stuff pretty straight. So
yeah.
I don't know. I think that I still have reason to be kind of sad about this. I'm gonna miss her. She was my favorite.
Yeah, she's a good character, and I feel like her killing wasn't indicative of what kind of person she was in past seasons. I wish we had something more grand for her, at least at this point.
I think she was she was deserving of that. I guess we'll talk more about that stuff with predictions, because we should talk about like who killed her and all of that kind of stuff. Let's talk about little stupid superficial things. I don't like the new logo.
I hate it.
Whatever. I mean, I guess they're trying to do kind of a cute kind of. Does it have Chinese symbols on it? Is that what it is?
I think so.
And then they had that little
kind of parallel the whole Hong Kong thing, but it just looks too busy.
They had that little it's too busy. They now with the opening, and I don't know if they'll do this every episode. I assume so. With the music, they have like the kind of Chinese music flourish in it, and that's kind of cool. But yeah. I don't like the new. Maybe I just maybe I just don't like it when things are different. But I like this logo, and I don't want that. I don't know. I don't like.
Well, I mean, the old logo worked. Like it was just subdued enough. It got the point across. This one's just too on the nose in certain places, and it just doesn't. Like the Chinese symbols and the way they interact with the word arrow, they just don't look very good together.
Yeah, and then there's the whole thing of, a lot of the time you'll change an opening title sequence for a second or third season, but we don't have an opening title sequence. This is just the logo. You don't really expect... I'm not saying it's bad that they changed the logo. I'm just saying I don't like it. Anyway, what else? I really like... Hold on, I'm suddenly I have so many character names. Roy, I really like Roy in this and in what he's doing, but it makes me wonder. I like that he's a full-on. I like that Oliver calls him his partner. I like that. Yeah. I like the kind of subtle thing because they don't really talk about it. Of Oliver is trying to figure out who he is between, or who he wants to be between the two lives. This is all Roy's got going for him. I think the thing with Thea being gone is really kind of sad for him. This is all he's got. He embraces it totally because it's the only purpose he has, and it's kind of, I feel like we're kind of seeing his directly post-Island stuff.
Yeah, he's a bit of a yes man in this episode, and he was never like that before. Like, he's not fighting Oliver on any point. He really doesn't feel like he has any reason to live aside from being Arsenal. And it's really interesting because he's kind of detoxing from Mirakuru. So he didn't have it as much with Slade where he went crazy, but I bet you can tell a little bit that he certainly regrets what he does. And I wonder if a lot of why he's working so agreeingly with Oliver, not questioning anything, is because he almost feels like he owes it to him after what he did.
Maybe so, and of course, we don't get any of that yet, so obviously that's just speculation, but it's good speculation. I think a lot of that is very likely. Putting him in a costume, I probably said this last season, I forget. Putting him in a costume immediately makes me wonder why Diggle has never been in one.
Yeah,
why would you go in the field?
Style, but he's a uniform guy. You think he would want one?
Why would you go in the field? I mean, like, why would Oliver allow it? Allow somebody to go in without a disguise? Because it seems like he would be. he would be one of the biggest liabilities, because somebody finds Sarah and they might not immediately go, oh, the Arrow obviously must be Oliver Queen as quickly. That would still probably would come up, but not as quickly. They find Diggle, boom. I mean, that's his like driver and stuff, like of course. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of wonder why he's never been in costume. Just seeing Arsenal now, but the costume is fantastic. It looks really good.
Yeah, superhero enthusiasts bring up this point a lot, where Slade's costume is amazing, Roy's costume is amazing. They're both better than Green Arrow's. I wish Green Arrow had a better costume.
Oh, I still like Green Arrow's costume, but...
Oh, I like it too, but, like, Arsenal's is just so much cooler than his. It's kind of jarring, like, Oliver, did you spend your entire budget on Arsenal?
It's like you've improved things so much. It's like the show is improving their costume budget, but they haven't changed Arrow's costume for some reason. Well, I don't know. I think it's fine. Let's talk about Vertigo, shall we? We got a new Vertigo. He is almost as theatrical as the last one, and I think that he is definitely building up the likelihood of becoming just as over the top. I really enjoyed him. I thought he was a lot of fun, and I like how much fun he's having. He is continuing this motif of Vertigo being Arrow's Joker and being the opposite side of the coin thing. He even talks a lot about that at the end of the episode. He has that whole, really over the top the way he plays it. That whole... this is a mantle now, and without the Arrow, there would not be a Vertigo, and you have created this. And ultimately, I think the idea is supposed to be that that's the reason that Oliver will have to remain Arrow, because for all of the good things he's done in the city, he also has created these things. You got that escalation thing from the Nolan films, and I think that in the opening scenes in this episode, they do that thing with the media where they're arguing about whether or not Arrow is a good thing or a bad thing, because crime's way down, but there have also been 2 terrorist attacks that wouldn't have happened without him. So we got all that classic superhero stuff going on, and I think that they're playing it pretty well. Like it's all stuff I've seen before, but I'm invested.
Yeah, and I guess a little bit of a testament to your point, when Arrow's fighting Vertigo for the first time and he sees himself, and it's an Oliver versus Arrow thing. It's not only like an internal conflict for Oliver, but it's a statement about like what Arrow's done to the city. So is he just as much his own worst enemy in terms of what he's trying to do as much as he's in his motivations? And that's kind of why I like this episode so much, is that it's a step back in a lot of ways, where we're getting less action and it's really about the characters. When we get near the end, it degenerates a little bit about back to the Arrow formula. But a lot of it really is kind of a calm piece for Oliver trying to figure things out.
Yeah, and you kind of expect that after the big giant, the city was almost totally destroyed thing last year. We've seen this in other shows, right? Where like you come back with the new status quo and everything's a lot better, and you know that things are about to really go downhill. I was not surprised whatsoever that 30 seconds after Oliver decided to start dating Felicity, they both almost got blown up. Felicity has to know that dating Oliver is the single most dangerous thing she could possibly do, because just associating with him gets her kidnapped every other episode. Felicity is our token damsel in distress kind of character. I like her a lot. She's a strong female character. Nothing about the way that she is characterized, but she is constantly put in danger. And I think I almost would have been disappointed had she not almost got blown up 30 seconds after dating Oliver, because it was almost... I felt like it was a little tongue-in-cheek. I mean, as much as you're supposed to feel for her, because she has all these gashes on her face and stuff, and she could have gotten blown up. By the way, I don't know how she walks away looking like that without a... I just want to throw that out there. But like...
a lot of blood.
But for a minute I found myself thinking, I wonder if they're not poking a little bit of fun at themselves with the way that they're constantly doing stuff to her.
Yeah, a little bit. But she's a little bit like a Lois Lane too, where she's a damsel in distress who's always getting rescued. But it never changes her. She's still always going to be the same person. She's really, and that's kind of what makes her strong, and why she didn't want to have that conversation with Oliver after the accident. Like, she has very definitive feelings, and circumstances out of her control don't change that. And that's really interesting.
Great point.
And it's cool because it's contrast with the fact that she can't always speak in complete sentences. So she knows what she wants. It's just hard for her to articulate it.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and you have kind of the Gwen Stacy Spider-Man 2 thing of she's she's the reason that bad things might happen to her. You can't. She wouldn't blame it on Oliver. She's chosen this life, and I like that Diggle echoes that. And I really appreciate that. That was, by the way, one of my favorite moments in the episode was the Diggle Arrow confrontation, especially because of the way that that it was ultimately resolved at the end. I actually really liked that. I don't know if other people like it or if they think that it's forced drama. I actually thought it worked pretty well, and I like that he and Felicity are both kind of sharing that role of the person that that he really cares about, that Oliver really cares about, that he's trying to keep out of danger for various reasons. One, because he's in love with her, and the other because he has a family, and he's trying to keep them off the field, and that makes it a little bit less of the stereotypical "I'm in love with you, so I'm trying to keep you out of harm's way" thing, because he's also doing the same thing with his platonic male friend. And he's just trying to look out for him, and also because Oliver sees in Diggle the life he wishes he could have and knows he probably never will.
Yeah, Oliver seems to understand everyone in his world more than he understands himself. And what's really cool with that Diggle confrontation scene is that Oliver recognizes that Diggle's life is about to completely change, and Diggle is having a hard time dealing with that. Like, he's really scared about the baby, and when he finally sees her, it's a completely different effect. And Oliver recognized that, which is why he has to get rid of him. He can't get rid of Felicity because Felicity, she the problem, like you said, she's in danger because she chooses the danger. It's not anyone's fault, and she accepts that. And she kind of has a role in life. Roy is looking for a role in his life, and Oliver is giving Roy purpose while letting Felicity make her own choices and looking out for Diggle. And despite understanding all of that about his close friends and group, he can't do it to himself. He can't figure out whether he should be Arrow or whether he should be Oliver or how to balance it. And I think that's pretty compelling drama.
I like it. I also think it's important to throw Lance in the mix there, because Lance is the character who has already kind of gone through a lot of the stuff that Arrow, in a way, is going through. He's had the family, and he's proven how difficult and maybe impossible it is to have a good family life and be the hero and be in that danger. And even having gone through all of that, he still doesn't know how to do anything but be a cop. And that's why he's putting he's got kind of that Jonathan Kent thing from Smallville of he's pushing himself too hard, and his heart could give out any moment thing. And I think that, so we have kind of we have kind of a past, present, future thing where you're seeing Roy kind of becoming what Oliver was when he first got off the island, and then you have Diggle making the opposite choice of what Oliver is in the moment, and he's kind of that present, and you also have. You also have Black Canary. You have Sarah doing something similar during the present too, and then we see two different outcomes so far anyway. And then I'm just saying that there's a lot of really good parallels between all these characters and they're all dealing with the same idea. And then you got the kind of future version of Lance is what Oliver could turn into, but also Oliver might even have it worse because he may never have a family. I mean, like Lance in a lot of ways has kind of what Oliver hopes he'll have, except there's so much tragedy there that, like, looking at Lance could help Oliver decide maybe it's not fair to anyone, including myself, if I go there.
Yeah, and importantly, he's not pushing Lance away either. Like, he's not telling him to get out of these dangerous scenes, because he recognizes Lance is happy where he is. And ultimately, what's more important, that he lives longer without a purpose, or that he dies doing something he really wants to do.
On the other hand, he still has another purpose, as Laurel points out, because he has that family.
Yeah.
And so like the way, what I kind of like with Lance is that he says, I don't know who I am without being a cop, but Laurel points out very clearly you still have this other life, and it's almost like he just likes being a cop too much. He's putting that ahead of him, and I think that if he were to see his worst fear, it might be something very similar to Oliver's. I think it's very important that Oliver doesn't see the Arrow; he sees Oliver Queen. he likes being the Arrow. The Arrow gave him purpose. Last season, I talked a lot about what I thought was this wonderful contrast between him and Sarah on the island. One of my favorite moments in the whole season was that flashback where Oliver is clearly glad that he has gone to the island and the ways in which it has changed him, and it's made him a better person. And he was really interesting because he still regrets a lot of things he did on the island, but in a lot of ways he is a better person. He's more skilled. He appreciates people more. He has more of a sense of responsibility. And when and so he has that moment where he says, Sarah, if you get off the island, make sure that my family knows what kind of person I was. And Sarah is doing everything she can so that her father never knows that she was alive. And I really love that contrast. So you fast forward to this episode here, and it makes a lot of sense that Oliver would see himself and not the Arrow, because he's afraid that without the suit, without what he has made himself, he has somewhat of a superiority complex almost. He is that kid from before the island.
Yeah.
And I really like that.
Yeah, he's got like this almost character defect of he's too emotionally intelligent about certain things. Like the moment he has fun being Arrow and he's getting the job done, he lets a tracer be planted on him and he immediately thinks that he can't have a normal life. And then when Ray Palmer shows up and he loses his company to that side, he immediately thinks, well, how selfish was it for me to think I could go back and run out Queen Industries again? Yeah. And he's not giving himself any kind of breathing room, but he constantly recognizes what he does wrong. And he needs someone like Laurel, and I guess that's how they'll develop their relationship this season, but he needs someone like Laurel to take a step back and say, you may not work in these areas, but look at what you mean to certain other people. It's just like the way that she does with Lance.
Well, and he has a tendency to just look at everything in extremes. I must be this or this. And the problem is, it's so complicated that even people that are trying to be both and seeing the complexity of it, they're still not able to strike that exact balance. So, I mean, the question ends up being, what do? And a lot of it is just, you have already made your choices. And so you get stuck just having to live with them. So I don't know. I think it's a pretty dense episode. It gets quite a bit done. Story wise, I do think some of it is just pulling the curtain back a little bit. I think that some of it is a little bit too like forced and easy, like we were talking about earlier. I kind of resist right at the beginning. All of everybody is kind of in a not so natural way reminding each other where the status quo is right now, just to catch the audience up, and it's all in one scene. It's like, oh yes, and Diggle has a baby on the way, and this thing is happening, and this is what Felicity is doing, and I'm just like, eh. But on the other hand, some of those things are allowed to be revealed in scene. I love the reveal of what Felicity is doing for a living. That was really funny. By the way, did you watch any Chuck?
Yes, I watched a lot of it recently.
I immediately had this big Chuck vibe because, first of all, she's working at, I want to call it a buy more. It's not exactly that. It's not a big box store. It's smaller than that. It's a little closer to like a Radio Shack or like, but something that has more like what am I trying to say? Like tech support stuff. It's like if you had to buy more with just the tech support and not as much of the storefront. But anyway. And then how hilarious is it that we've got Brandon Routh in the show and that they're in the same scene together? Was that on purpose? Was that a little bit of a nod to did you catch that?
Yeah.
I thought that was a little bit of a condensed shot.
Sections too, and he's kind of hitting on the main character's girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good that's a good point.
I did question though, because Felicity went to MIT if I'm correct. So why is she working in like a tech support kind of store? Like with her degree, it's very easy for her to get a job anywhere else.
I assumed that it was trying to keep a low profile, or something.
Possibly.
That like because it seemed like, because remember, he tries to offer her a job and she immediately goes, "Yeah, I'm not looking for anything, and I freaking hate that, and I wish I was looking for something." So it seemed like this is part of their plan for some reason. I'm kind of hoping that becomes more explicit because I'm with you. I'm not real sure why they have.
It's
why
a
they
little
have
weird
to do
though,
that.
because I mean, like that job would give her almost more constraints than a better job would. Like her hours are not as definitive, and it seems like it'd be more of a hassle to work there than it would be to somewhere like at Queen Consolidated.
Well, like I said, low profile. I think maybe it's for some reason they're afraid that if she's more in the public spotlight, like Oliver's enemies will find her or something.
Yeah, maybe.
But then again, they use her for bait on purpose all the time. So I'm not sure what that's about. Let's talk about Palmer. Boy, two shows now with a character named Palmer that you and I both really like. Anyway, so how did you feel about him?
He is a terrible human being and a jerk to everyone, but I love him.
He's really
hilarious
charismatic,
and he's fantastic. And it's probably my favorite role Brian Emerald's done so far, at least in this one episode. What
I thought was kind of interesting about it is that while he's really manipulative and like kind of feigns this socially awkward thing, I really think I can't decide if he's feigning it or if he really has it, but he's just really good at using it. It was kind of fun. It was a little bit layered. It was kind of fun. It was kind of hard to get a real good read on him, and he's so eccentric. At the same time, he knows, he's so good at, the whole, what am I trying to say? Commercial thing, advertising kind of business of like getting people to look at you a certain way, that like even though I don't think that he is really out for anybody but himself, he immediately knows what to do to get the city back in the public eye. Like he knows how to manipulate people. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, and he's really upfront about everything too, because he's really manipulative of people, and he's kind of stalking Felicity, and he stole information, but he admits to basically all of this, and he says almost all of this in dialogue, and he's really fast-talking, and he's really suave about it, and he knows how to cover all of it up too, with like, yeah, I did this, but then, this number was available anyway, and it led to this, and it's in better hands now.
Yeah, he can validate anything.
Yeah, he's a little bit like Tony Stark early on.
Yeah, kind of, except he plays up this kind of like almost bashful thing.
Yeah, I'm really wondering, like you said, like whether or not it's a facade and if there's some kind of deeper layer to that or not.
I'm really, by the way, public relations was the thing I was trying to think of. I kind of imagine that as we move along, he'll become less of kind of a caricature, and he is a kind of character we've never really seen in the show before. He's a different. Yeah. If there's an archetype there, it's one we haven't really had in the show yet. And he and Felicity, of course, have a whole lot in common. I'm not going to call him the male version of Felicity because she's a little bit more altruistic than he is, I guess. But
yeah, or at least what do we know of him so far?
Yeah. But yeah, I like what was kind of fun is he gives a speech and I'm like, yeah, he clearly is the guy for the job, I kind of like that.
Yeah,
and
it's hard not to like the guy.
And yay, he's probably not in Oliver's father's notebook, so there's that.
Well, I guess the notebook just doesn't even matter at this point in the show writers' minds.
Well, no, but it would if he knew that if his name was in there, because he would know that he's not to be trusted. Because the last person who ran the company's name was in the notebook, and Oliver didn't even remember that, even though we saw her name in like the second episode. I feel the need to bring that up every now and again. Recently, Stephen Amell was doing a Q&A online, and somebody asked that question. Somebody said, so what's up with the fact that Isabel Rochev's name was just in the notebook, and then Oliver doesn't even, and then Steve Amell just said, no comment, and then he just moved on.
That's weird. I was hoping someone would address that at some point.
Yeah, me too. Clearly, it was just an oversight.
Yeah, because they try really hard to plant Easter eggs, especially early on, so that might have been it.
Yeah, but the problem is that was an Easter egg that totally backfired, because all he had to do was take one more look at the notebook and go, she's not to be trusted. Anyway.
Yeah. Although Isabel was definitely more conniving and in the background, and this guy, this Ray Palmer, he admits to so much, and he steals information, and none of the board of directors really care.
Yeah.
So you almost wonder, like, even if his name's in the book and he can't be trusted, it's not like he's saying he should be trusted either.
No, that's a really good point. Steve, why don't we go ahead and go on to best moment, worst moment? I'm sure some more stuff will come up as we go along. What was your favorite moment this episode?
I told you this before we started recording, but literally every scene Brandon Routh's in is my favorite moment. I think he's amazing in this episode.
I am liking him more as I'm talking to you about him. I love Brandon Routh. I'm really excited that he's in the show. His character didn't immediately get... Although, watching it the second time, I will say that I didn't pick up on some of the kind of nuanced manipulation that he was doing, and the fact that he probably already knew that Felicity worked at that store, and that's why he was there. And I think that's pretty cool. Because at first, were you questioning that at first? I was like, what? You just happened to run into her?
Like that, though.
And then we find... And then after what Felicity does to him at the end, I kind of got the sense that she was immediately going, yeah, he came to me because he knew and didn't tell me who he was, and so, yeah.
Yeah, I figured it was something like that, because it seems like he doesn't do anything without a reason. And I'm kind of fond of saying this now, but I think Brandon Routh is the Jimmy Carter of Superman actors, in the sense that he got really unlucky when he got that really coveted spot of president or Superman actor. But everything he's done since that has been so much better, and he was just really unlucky starting out.
Yeah, the only way to make him more like Jimmy Carter would be if he got all of his best roles overseas.
Maybe, yeah.
Because the big thing that Jimmy Carter really made his name on after his presidency was foreign relations.
Yeah, and it's certainly possible. What he's kind of doing the exact opposite thing of Superman in every role now, where he's always kind of like a underhanded guy, so maybe that's there.
Yeah, although I get the feeling that he's going to be a better person than the role he played in Shock.
Yeah, I think that's a safe estimate. I doubt he's going to kill anyone.
My favorite moment, there was a lot of stuff I really liked in this. My favorite moment was the Oliver versus Green Arrow thing, because I liked what it meant. I'm not going to say I've never seen it before, because obviously we've seen this a bunch of different times. But like I said, I was impressed that it was the distinction of it's Oliver that he's afraid of and not Green Arrow. I really liked that. I just thought that the way it was choreographed was really good. And I should step back and say there's a bunch of really cool action choreography in this episode. Like you mentioned that this one seems a little bit less action driven than normal, but when we get the action, there's some spectacular stuff. Everything Roy does is fantastic. Like he does. Roy's a flipper, man. Roy loves to flip, dude. I don't know how he wasn't with the Flying Graysons when he was a kid. He loves to flip. And then when he does that thing at the end where he climbs up to that ceiling and all of that, like, that all looked really good. But anyway, I loved that. I loved that it was the Superman 4 thing, but it made sense and I understood why it was happening. But I think my other favorite moment was partly because I called it and I've been waiting for this. The Star City thing I got really giddy about.
Yeah, same.
It was kind of hard not to. Did you have a worst moment?
It's not so much of a worst moment as much as it's a disappointment, but I thought Vertigo's kind of defeat at the end was a little too easy. Like, Sarah just kind of shows up and they don't make much of a deal out of it, and then they just beat Vertigo when it's kind of done.
I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't make sense, that it completely not make sense that she's there. After all, Oliver thinks he needs another person in the field, and Diggle won't come, so she gets called. But it still felt they shoehorned her into this episode just so that they could kill her, right? I don't know.
I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I just feel like it should have been a little bit more spectacular than it was.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Yeah, I'm having a hard time articulating what irritated me about it, but it was a little bit hard to swallow.
Yeah.
My worst moment was death of Sarah, just on principle. Whether she comes back or not, I can't watch an episode where she gets shot 3 times with arrows and not go, my favorite character. So no.
And then falls off of the building.
Yeah, and hits a trash can.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to see.
Anyway, I do not mind admitting that for the next half hour after I saw that, it was a little bit hard to get any work done. I really was just kind of sitting there reeling a little bit, going, I'm not gonna. And what it mostly was I'm not gonna get her every other week or every week anymore, and that's that's.
I used to love her interactions with Oliver in costume and stuff, and we're not gonna get that anymore.
you know what? I meant to say something earlier when I was giving reasons that I'm sure they'll bring her back in some way. I don't think this show would be mean enough to do that to Lance, because she gets to have final words with Laurel and not with her father, and I don't buy that the show does that to him.
No, because I feel like at that point it's almost like a will-breaking moment if he finds that out.
Well, of course it is, yeah. Especially because he's looking for an excuse to kind of stay the brutish cop right now. You know, like things are kind of going his way right now, but he almost doesn't like that. Well, they're not going his way. You know what I mean? Like he still wants to be in the field. Something else we didn't mention too is that I don't know that they didn't play up the thing that happened to him at the end of the last episode last season is too much of a cliffhanger. Because when we come into it I'm pretty sure the last time we saw him was his nose is bleeding, he's fallen over, and then we get to this episode and it's just he's been in poor health. I don't know. I mean, 5 months have passed, so okay, but I guess I'm complaining more about that episode playing that as a giant cliffhanger.
Yeah, especially considering that Arrow characters don't die like that, and I don't think anyone predicted that Lance was going to die next episam either.
No, but I figured like it would open and we'd see him in a hospital. I'm not saying that I wanted that or anything, and also. What am I complaining about really? I guess it's just I expected there'd be some big thing with that, and it's really just he's in poor health and they're using that as a reason for he should not be in the field. I kind of feel like maybe they did that and they weren't sure where they were going to go with it. Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe.
Although I do love the whole whatever. That's not a big deal. I guess I'm not complaining so much as just going, that was weird. But I did really like his speech. And I think it's so cool that in 2 years, we've gone from he's leading the manhunt to he's no longer allowing the manhunt and the police force is officially coming out and saying, thank God for the Arrow. I love that stuff.
Yeah, he's not a really generic Commissioner Gordon, which people were kind of making him out to be early on. He's taking that archetype of the cop that works with the hero and turning it on its head a little bit every now and then.
I don't know that it's on its head, really. I mean, it's kind of in that place right now, isn't it? Where they just work together. Well, I mean, it's impressive that he's gotten the police force on board with him, I guess.
Well, yeah, and I guess more or less in the point that it's not a friendship so much as these two characters are on principle not on the same line, but they have to kind of adapt their principles and be other people to work together, and that's ultimately how they become better people in the end.
But they are much more alike than they are different.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're realizing that.
I think it's weird, though, that he went from being a beat cop to captain.
Yep, I had the same thing. I mean, I get that he used to be a detective, and then everybody called him detective last season because they were not willing to acknowledge that he was demoted. But really, he made that leap. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing not being in the field and give you like a ceremonial promotion, but he's captain of the police force now. That's kind of a big jump.
Yeah. I think it's just because he's constantly getting the crap kicked out of him, and they know that if they don't give him a desk job, he's going to die. Maybe that's what it is. Hey, did you have a favorite quote this episode?
I did, and no surprise, it was a Brandon Routh line.
Oh yeah.
Where he says, "Sorry, I'm late. Traffic was terrible, which is why I took my helicopter. I parked it on your roof. I hope that's okay."
That was pretty funny. Did you have any others?
Pretty much everything Brandon Routh says, but I can't read all of that.
Hard to not get a little bit nostalgic and excited about You Have Failed the City.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was fun. I like everything Vertigo says.
Yes.
When Vertigo says to the Arrow, you won't die, and it's so frustrating. I love it. Like his accent is great. Like his delivery is gold every time he says something. And then at the end when he is trying to explain to the Arrow that Vertigo will keep coming back because he's created this legacy, and he says, "Don't you see? Don't you see?" I love that. I kind of could have used 3 or 4 more of them. Don't you
He's
see?
just an awesome actor, and I really want him to keep coming back.
And he will. I'm positive. I'm positive he will. Something that I tweeted that I want to mention here too is that it was somewhat unfortunate. There was a rhyming word. This is so minor. There was a rhyming word that was really unfortunately placed because of where they were and what was going on. We have just seen Diggle's girlfriend give birth to her baby. By the way, always false labor on TV, man. Nobody on TV can get pregnant and then not have a false labor. But anyway, so we've seen their baby. And then Felicity and Oliver finally have their confrontation, and she says, "You're dangling maybes," and it totally sounded like dangling babies. and it took me a minute, and I was like, "He's doing what?"
I guess that Felicity and that whole hospital scene is also kind of a close runner-up for best moment and best line. Like, I love the Diggle Oliver thing at the end where they hug.
Yeah, it worked. It was really good.
Yeah. Yeah, those two characters are just fun to watch together.
So now we go into guest stars. The big one, of course, is Brandon Routh. Yay, Brandon Routh! I love Brandon Routh.
I know, he's awesome.
He's here, and then we've got I didn't write the other names down. We've got whoever is playing the new Vertigo. Did you look him up?
I did. I just don't. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly.
Okay.
But yes, he's a character actor. He appears quite a bit. He was on Seinfeld, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had no idea who he plays in that show, but he's in that show. But his name is Peter Stormare, something like that.
So those were the big ones.
Yeah, I think that's really about it. Depending on who killed who killed Sarah, those are the only real guest stars.
Oh, now let's go on to predictions. Do you have a guess?
I think it was Komodo. And I think that's all going to be tied back into Oliver probably let the family that's watching over him this time down.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's going to happen. My guess is, and I mean, like, this could be way crazy left field. What is his name? Why can't I think of it right now? My guess is the guy who had the boat.
Yeah.
What is his name? Why can't I think of it? He died, but if we're doing like Mirakuru or Lazarus Rebirth, he could be back, and I just like it seems like, and he had stuff. I always thought he had stuff going on with the League of Assassins, so I could kind of see that.
Yeah, it's possible. You're talking about the guy who made Amazo. What was his name?
Yeah, I can't think of his name right now. There's too many characters in the show. And
there were a lot of characters. They're doing a pretty good job.
Ivo.
Okay.
God. Anyway, was it ever fully confirmed that I'm trying to remember. It's just been a while now. Was he not working with the League of Assassins? Was that not confirmed?
No, I didn't say anything about him working with the League of Assassins. It was really just about, like, him going back to his wife who was sick.
Well, yeah.
I don't think I ever mentioned League of Assassins.
See, though. I thought maybe that was in there. I can't remember. That's been a little while. Forgive me. There's a lot of stuff to keep track of. But I think that there is a good chance that it's him. It's got to be somebody from Sarah's past, and I feel like it would make the most sense if it was somebody that we've seen before. So I don't know.
But wait, wasn't it that episode where he asked for a quick death and then Oliver kills him?
Yeah. But he could have been resurrected by the League of Assassins because he has all this knowledge about, like, Mirakuru and stuff, because he's the Mirakuru guy. So, like, he could have gotten resurrected, like, with Mirakuru in order to use it more or something. I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it, it sounds really stupid.
No,
I have no idea.
It's possible. I'm almost wondering if it's not him, we get almost like a Zola Winter Soldier thing of his work lives on through him and we get him through that.
Okay, could be something like that. Or let's just go totally left field and say it's Solomon Grundy.
Yes. I want that guy to come back.
It's Solomon Grundy. He's got to come back at some point. And honestly, if I mean, they made too much of a big deal of the whole Solomon Grundy thing and then killed him off, and we haven't seen him yet. If this ends up being a season about resurrection, I think we see him again this season. That's a thing.
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. I feel like there's a lot of avenues they could have taken with him, and they probably didn't on purpose, especially with all those Easter eggs about Amazo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely wondering if they'll bring him back, or at least not some of his work. And I'm sure Ra's al Ghul could use his resources.
Let's talk about other possible things. I'm gonna throw out a couple of completely radical, based on nothing predictions that for whatever reason, watching the episode, I went, they're gonna do that. First of all, I think we get a team up with Vertigo and Clock King. Or more accurately, I want a team up with Vertigo and Clock King.
That would be really cool if we do that in like the Flash Green Arrow crossover.
That would be cool, wouldn't it?
Oh, that'd be really awesome. Like, what if they decided to band together and take out Flash and Arrow together? That'd be really cool.
Yeah, and band together
Oliver
with
gets
like
hooked up on fear toxin because he's essentially the Scarecrow, and he fights Barry because of that or something.
Yeah, we didn't mention that. A lot of people are kind of complaining about how that whole Scarecrow thing was the same sort of effect and all of that. I hope they move a little bit away from that, because I thought that guy's worst fear was really generic. Generic, scary CG monster thing is his worst fear. Then we get to Oliver's and we're like, wow, he has really interesting psychology. I guess only regular characters in the show are allowed to have... I guess if you're an expendable red shirt bad guy henchman, then you don't... you can't have an interesting psychology. You just like... He has no imagination, because I've seen that in like every horror movie made in the last 10 years. I'm not really that scared of this.
Everyone has a black and white mind unless you wear a costume, evidently.
This is maybe obvious love triangle with Oliver, Felicity, and Palmer. That's going to happen. I think
Barry, because I think in the trailer for The Flash, her and Barry have a thing.
I mean, I imagine that every time they bring her and Barry back together, it'll be like a quick fling, and then they'll go away again because she's in some other show. Like, I don't think that'll be a regular recurring thing. Now, I will say that I thought that I was a little surprised, because I thought that the whole Felicity thing was going to be like a season arc. I thought they were going to be dating this whole season. It seems like they're actually just going to be... See, I don't know how that dynamic's going to work. I have a little bit of a reservation about that, and I'm wondering... I'm kind of afraid that she's just going to not get to be any fun this season, because she and Oliver have to be completely distanced from each other emotionally. But I really think that she and Palmer have way too much in common to not date. That's going to happen.
Well, there's that scene where Oliver's asking her, like, do you like Italian, in the middle of doing a job?
Right.
So I think there's potential for those two to kind of have chemistry. But yeah, the Palmer thing is just way too perfect, and I don't know if they're not going to go down that route a little bit.
Well, yeah, but you get to the end of the episode, and I mean, like, yeah, maybe they had a little bit of chemistry before she said, "I will never date you now."
Yeah, I know, but like you said, like, those two guys just have way too much in common, and I feel like Palmer's a charm. I don't know if he's gonna let it go.
I guess we'll see just how much depth he ends up having, but I don't know. I bet you money there's a love triangle there for at least a couple of episodes. Do you have anything else?
I also hope that we bring in Katana pretty early on, because we saw her without her costume in the flashbacks, and I think we're pretty sure the next episode's supposed to have Komodo, if not the one right after that. So I think if we have a Katana show up and it's more of a costume brawl kind of thing for early on in the season, that'd be pretty cool.
Let's go on to comic references. They're all pretty obvious. Warner is the Count Vertigo from the comics, so we now have Count Vertigo. He is totally different from any version of him that I've really seen. Not that I'm a big Green Arrow guy. Looking forward to seeing what Eric has to say about him. But he's kind of a reinvention, but that his name is the same. We got Katana, the Star City thing, Ray Palmer. We got Barry Allen there for a minute. At the boxing match, we've got another reference to Ferris Air. They're putting it everywhere, Steve. Everybody right now is going, holy crap! In a season or two, we're gonna get a third one, and it's gonna be Green Lantern, and that would be the trifecta, wouldn't it? Because
yeah.
And Dan and I talked about this too. That would kind of be the trifecta, because these are all characters that are really good friends in the comics. I mean, he would be the next logical choice, especially to finally get space stuff in here. Because we started with Grounded, and now we have pseudoscience, and then we could have space, and probably rope alternate dimensions in there too. Although, since we're doing time travel in Flash, that already makes for the potential for alternate universes. And then I read that, I looked this up, I'm not going to act like I knew this, I looked this up. Ted Grant is a boxing champion who becomes Wildcat in the comics, and he is one of the guys in the boxing arena.
Yeah, he's supposed to show up this season.
Oh, okay.
And if you look at the people in the ring, they've got jackets that say Team Wildcat.
Oh, cool. I didn't see that.
Yeah, and there's even some pictures of stuff like where he's training Laurel, so that might become a thing.
Oh, okay. Let's move on now to our trivia questions for the day. Steve, what is your trivia question, sir?
Okay, it's a comic book Green Arrow thing. Under what writer does Connor Hawke join the Justice League and quit?
Wow, okay. Good question. My question today, is always from the episode, is when Oliver is on his 30-second date with Felicity, what kind of liquor does he order? Oliver orders liquor, Felicity does not, and what does he order? If you think you know the answer to either of our trivia questions, you can go to Geekvolution.com, go to the contact page, and send us your answers. I've been seeing a lot of people lately, as we used to ask people to do, leaving comments in the, or leaving the answers in the comments. Please don't do that if you can help it, because I don't want to give it away for people if they want to try to get it right, and we want to try to have a little bit more interaction with people on the show, so we're going to mention whoever gets these questions right first on the next episode. So Geekvolution.com, go to the contact page, or you can send me a personal message on Geekvolution at our channel page on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We sure appreciate it. Steve, it's good to see you, man.
Yeah, it was good talking to you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you very much for filling in. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll have Eric back on next time. And you can see Steve on Gotham Discussions on Tuesday, and along with myself and Dan's News doing Gotham Discussions. We've been having a lot of fun with that lately. And anyway, in the meantime, thanks again for watching. We sure appreciate you. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Steve Baxi.
We'll see you later.